Vacations with family. It's not something I was ever really given when I was younger. We had other priorities. I never took a family vacation. I never went to travel abroad, either as a young person or an adult, as part of some process. If I traveled abroad, there was a purpose. Maybe sometimes you need to take off, take some time, get to know what's important. It will be clear from what I have written that there is a human side to warfare which, unfortunately, has often been neglected by historians. It will be referred to frequently throughout this book, and for that I make no apology, because it is the crux of the whole matter. Tiredness, fear, appalling conditions, great privations, the virtual certainty of wounds, and the probability of death, all will be faced by the fighting man if he has a stout heart, knows what he is fighting for, has confidence in his officers and his comrades, and if he knows he will never be required to do anything which is not possible. These matters must be understood by all those who study warfare, and of course, especially by those who follow the profession of arms. Modern war is a total war, and over the centuries has become very complicated, embracing the life and activities of a nation to an ever-increasing extent, so that the morale of the whole nation is involved. This is vital. In the days of levies and mercenaries, comparatively few men did the fighting or were engaged in the national war effort. But today, the whole manpower of a nation, and woman power too, together with its industrial strength, is mobilized in order to provide the necessary sinews of war. Furthermore, today, whether a man is drafted to the fighting services or employed in industry, he is subject to dangers almost wherever he may be. This has necessitated the introduction of an organization for what has come to be called civil defense, but a more inspiring title would be home defense. These facts have made modern war a complex affair. A great power must be prepared not only for a conventional type of warfare, but also for a nuclear one. Scientific and technical resources now must be harnessed to the limit if nations are to have any hope of survival in total war. In the last part of this book, we shall look into the future and examine the pattern which future wars may be expected to take. Now this book is a different trajectory than the other one. Chapter 24, The Nuclear Age, 558. Some nice illustrations in here. Chapter 24, The Nuclear Age. This is what we have to look forward to. Except for the epilogue. Chapter 25. Let's start. 24. We must now examine more closely the nuclear deterrent, which is what prevents all-out war today between the great powers. Many people, maybe, do not understand the power and implications of nuclear weapons, and in particular the hydrogen bomb. Let us consider the matter, to see if we can discover what policies are best suited to enable mankind to live peacefully on Earth. There's a snowstorm outside. Hydrogen and oxygen put together form water, H2O, 2 and 1, compressed, subjected to a certain kind of pressure, changes form from liquid to solid. What's the longest amount of time that you have been without a bath? What is the longest amount of time you've gone without taking a shower? There are people right now in Texas who ordinarily wouldn't have thought of such a thing that are being compelled to think about matters such as that. Work on the theory of nuclear physics has been carried out by scientists for many years, but we need not go farther back than the early 1940s. The production of an atomic bomb would obviously give the Allies an advantage in the 1939-45 war. It was known in 1940 that German scientists were working on the project. Very secret work was pushed ahead urgently by British and American scientists, and it was agreed in 1943 by Roosevelt and Churchill that all research and development should be carried out in the United States because that country was beyond the range of German bombing. Let me ask you, do you think these decisions had anything to do with the number and circumstances under which refugees or those fleeing the Nazis were allowed to be admitted to the United States at the time? The first live test of an atomic bomb was made in New Mexico on the morning of 16th July 1945 and was completely successful. The German war was by then over, but the war against Japan remained. I do not agree with his assessment. Perhaps it is because more information has come to light since he wrote this book. The Potsdam Conference had opened in Berlin on 15th July, and the news of the successful test was received by the American delegation on the afternoon of the 16th. Churchill was at once informed, and he told me in the strictest secrecy. The question then arose as to whether Stalin should be told. Some discussion took place, it being finally agreed he should be, by Truman, and this was done on the evening of 24th July. That is a fiscal quarter off from April 24th. Stalin displayed little interest. Of course, he may have known all about it from the Russian Secret Service network, but this is pure speculation. It was agreed unanimously by the British and American delegations that the bomb should be used against the Japanese. That is not true. There was actually a substantial amount of information that for a considerable amount of time that Truman was against using the nuclear bomb, that there was little operational priority given to it. For a majority of the time, it was under consideration. There were other possibilities. It wasn't until after the Americans had already received word that there was understood to be confirmation of the intent on Japan to surrender, that Truman was influenced to change his mind. Now that's according to specific publicly accessible information that came very shortly after the time frame around which the information about those decisions were made. There was a lot of contestation. People that were working on nuclear matters related to the United States had their contestation. People within the military establishment did not support it wholeheartedly, and Truman himself did not support it until after the decision was made in connection with information regarding the intent of Japan to surrender. But I also believe that was influenced by Atomic City. I believe it was influenced specifically in connection with an understanding that so many people, specifically women in the country, had been put toward a matter of focusing on the creation of something they understood would be a turning point in the trajectory of the war. They being put through something that heretofore had not been something that had been engaged, including, but especially by women, was going to be the decisive factor in America's victory when it came to the war. And so any other thing that was justified, positioning women in the manner that they were so positioned during World War II, would also be able to be substantiated later because it led to a success in the war, in at least part based upon the behavior of women in the war effort. I think that's directly connected to the manners in which the specific sectors in Japan responded years later, having bombarded into your unconsciousness the energy and intent of women that fit a certain archetype, an archetype that's being created by virtue of women's participation in the war effort. To be continued.